Tushangilie Kenya, taifa letu tukufu, Kenya tunayoipenda, Kenya nchi tunayoipenda.
Tujivunie sana tukijiita wa Kenya, nchi yenye baraka, Kenya nchi yenye baraka.
Tumekomboa Kenya, taifa letu tukufu, tumebadili mwendo, tutalinda katiba mpya. Anayependa Kenya ni yule mwenye kutenda haki kwa watu wote, mtu mwenye kutenda haki. Na ukipenda Kenya ujitengane na mambo yenye kuvunja amani. Hatutaki matata Kenya, wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
Kenya kipenzi chetu, nchi yenye upendo, hatutaacha Kenya daima na milele.
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
Wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
na nikienda nje sitasahau Kenya, na nitabaki Mkenya daima na milele.
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
Wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
na tumeapa sote wenye nchi ya Kenya kutumikia Kenya daima na milele.
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
Wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
Sitaiacha Kenya nchi yangu,
Mimi ni mwenye Kenya daima.
umoja wetu Kenya tudumishe.
Mimi ni mwenye Kenya daima.
sitadanganywa kamwe na porojo.
Mimi ni mwenye Kenya daima.
zenye kuleta chuki kati yetu.
Mimi ni mwenye Kenya daima.
Nitatetea haki za Wakenya.
Mimi ni mwenye Kenya daima.
Wala sitakubali ukabila.
Mimi ni mwenye Kenya daima.
Sitaharibu mali ya wengine.
Mimi ni mwenye Kenya daima.
Na majirani wangu nitalinda.
Mimi ni mwenye Kenya daima.
Wenye nchi wenzangu,
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
tushangilie Kenya, taifa letu tukufu, Kenya tunayoipenda. Tushangilie Kenya, taifa letu tukufu, Kenya tunayoipenda. Kenya nchi tunayoipenda. Kenya nchi tunayoipenda.
Hey. All right, so we are live. I know we have one or two panelists running a bit late, but we can get started. I'll just have us, even though we've been on this platform before, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you guys for tuning in. I'd like to welcome myself. My name is Joshua. I will be helping host today's live session, and we have Washington Osira as well. Washington, if you'd like to say hi and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Joshua, for the brief introduction and for hosting this live stream. Yeah, we've been around. My name is Washington Osiro. I am, how do I best describe this? I'm a public health scientist, basically. I work in the medical device space for the last 25 years. I'm dating myself. I am very, very excited to be part of the CJ's presidential aspirations for 2027. I think the CJ embodies values that a lot of us talk about, a lot of us want to see in our leaders, but somehow we are unable to transform that ideal, those desires into actual decisions at the ballot box. So I hope to be part of the group that makes those goals become reality by supporting his candidacy. So I look forward to this conversation. I look forward to contribute in a positive way.
Perfect. Welcome. I know Pravin Kokey is just joining us as he gets ready to, I don't know whether he'll be in a position to have the video on, but as we're trying to be in a position to speak, just want to introduce the platform. So the idea for today is to have a neutral space to be able to reflect on Kenya's progress. Tomorrow is Madaraka Day. We are all Kenyans on this page, and I would love for us to be able to reflect and see where we're going as a country, see how we can be able to effect change, knowing that next year is an election year, regardless of which we're here to talk and discuss and see how best we can be able to impact change. Let's see, are we going in the right direction? I think it's a very necessary thing to do towards our reflection, looking back at the spirit of Madaraka, which understand independence for a reason, and are we actually fulfilling that vision that we're meant to have? So with me, as introduced, is Washington Osiro as well, and we do have Pravin. Pravin, are you in a position to introduce yourself? Pravin, can you hear us? Oh, sorry, you're on mute. Washington, sorry. Sorry, go ahead. Very much. Oh, sorry, okay, you're saying. Pravin, are you there? Okay, maybe he may be having some technical difficulties. Oh, okay.
So can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can. Yes. Oh, there he is.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Josh. Just like he's mentioned, my name is Pravin. I'm a pharmacist in training, and of course, Gen Z, and I'm happy to be here.
Nice. So I'm glad you're able to make the time to join us. Yeah, like I said, we're Muslim diaspora. I know you're based in Kenya, but just for background, I know probably mentioned this, but he does run a platform whereby he does, I think it's called Storytime Africa. Is that correct? Yeah, he does delve into the past and looking at how we're getting to where we are, and I think that's a very good, that's a perfect position to be, because we want to really look at, because in order for us to understand where we're going, we have to look at the past to understand how we got here, and then figure out how can we engineer that to get to the future. So with that said, I'll start with the very first question. It's been 7 years. It's been we got Madaraka Day in 1963, if I'm not mistaken, and that has been calculated. Yeah, so there's a difference. So one thing for those who don't know much about Madaraka Day, Madaraka Day is Independence Day, but then we also have the Republic Day. So we became independent on December 12th, I believe, and then we became a republic on 1st of June, if I'm not mistaken. And so that is why we do celebrate that. And then, or am I mistaken? I'm trying to know fully which one of the two, happens that. But regardless of which, leading to that time, we did have people who fought for our independence. And I would love for you guys to see, since we got independence and became a republic, how do you think Kenya is faring so far? What are your thoughts about our progress up to now? This is for anyone.
Pavin, you want to go first?
No, you can go ahead. It's fine.
Okay. I will share a piece that I wrote, I think when Kenya celebrated its 60th anniversary, 60th year of independence anniversary. At 65 or however old we are, I think we are still struggling to realize the ideals that we talked about at the dawn of independence. We talked about the rule of law. We talked about development across all the different spaces of the country. We talked about being a unified nation under the flag, as opposed to a balkanized geographical mass of land across the 43 plus tribes. So we talked about all these ideals at the dawn of independence, but the reality is that years later we are still wrestling with that. We are still a balkanized country where we have a political system where the winner takes all. We have not, our peers at the dawn of independence, specifically the four Asian tigers, are light years ahead of us. Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, notably Singapore and South Korea. Those were our peers at the dawn of independence. I know that because that's what I studied from my undergrad. I studied political science with a focus on international systems, and I did a comparative analysis between Singapore and Kenya. I did a comparative analysis between Jomo Kenyatta and Lee Kuan Yew, who was the first prime minister of modern day Singapore. If you look at a side-by-side analysis of the two countries, of the two societies, they were both British colonies. They both had a diverse population, an ethnically diverse population. They both had strong leadership. They all had a pretty well-educated labor force that were poised to take over when the British government left. And somehow Singapore was able to transform all that into one of the best governed countries in the world, hands down. I mean, the Singapore educational system and the Singapore healthcare system is a world class. I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. Just do a quick internet search on Singapore education, Singapore governance, Singapore healthcare system, and part of the reason it is one of the least corrupt countries in the world, and part of the reason why that was the case is because the leadership was very intentional about addressing all these potential pitfalls that Kenya is still running into. The leadership addressed competence, so the people it hired into the bureaucracy, into the government, are competent, hands down. I mean, they're both technocrats, they're engineers, they're doctors, they're pharmacists, they're policy analysts, but they're competent from world-renowned institutions of higher learning. They were very intentional about addressing corruption, about ensuring that people in positions of power are able to justify their wealth, which is that's a yardstick for ensuring that people do not take bribes. If you cannot explain why you have that 1 million shilling home based on a salary of 10,000 shillings a month, the government was very intentional about ensuring that property was confiscated. So again, 60 years after independence, we are still talking about these issues. We are still wrestling with issues that were supposed to be addressed at the dawn of independence. I think Kenya at 65 or however old we are still struggling. We're a long way from that. And given the foundation on which the CJ has built his platform, has built his reputation, forget the platform, has built his reputation, as a no-nonsense, by the books, leader, I think the time is ripe for somebody like him to be at the helm, to make sure that we realize the dreams that we talked about, at the dawn of independence. So, to answer your question, how are we doing, on the eve of Madaraka Day, after 65 years after independence? I think we are still pattering along. We are not where we ought to be, and part of the reason why we are not where we ought to be is because of the leadership and the fact that the public, a mass of public, a tipping point of Kenyans take their cues from the leaders and behave like them. So whether it's giving bribes, accepting bribes, throwing trash on the road, all those things are behavior that are learned and are tolerated because the people who are supposed to embody them, tolerate it and actually embody those very vices that we talk about. So I know I've said a mouthful, but I'll leave it at that.
All right. So I know that was a lot. Praveen, did you have something to say before I go to the next question first?
Yes. Thank you so much for that, Washington. As much as 65 years down the line, we have a few achievements that we can be able to celebrate as a nation, because I'm a huge fan of African history and have storytelling platforms on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube, and the likes, where I tell stories of Africa. And when you look at these African countries, especially in the 60s after independence, Kenya has really avoided things such as coups. So maybe things like political, stability compared to other African countries is something we can't be able to celebrate as much as we have our, our dirty linen here and there. Our economic growth has been quite remarkable as a country. I mean, now we are the Silicon Savannah, with things like M-Pesa and the like. So there's so many things that we can be able to celebrate 65 years down the line. But one thing to shed light on is the fact that we are still way behind in terms governance and leadership, because things like corruption are still holding us back 65 years down the line. And just like Washington has said, there's so many countries, especially the Asian tigers, that are doing remarkably well, of which we started off at the same time and them starting later. So 65 years down the line, we still have a lot to go, and we are in need of change makers. Back to you, Josh.
Perfect. That was an amazing response. And yeah, thank you guys for such thoughtful responses. And so I know those are very deep conversations, but I want to ask on a very lighter note. How do you guys, or how have you guys celebrated Madaraka Day in the past? Before this is to keep it light before we get into deeper conversations. How have you guys done, especially watching in the diaspora? We're probably out there. I know Kenya celebrates more than we do out here, but yeah, how do you celebrate it? What does it mean to you? I think that's that. We can just keep it very brief for that one. So
I am so glad that you asked that question. So I think it was last year or the year before. There was supposed to be an event in Atlanta. It was so I think. There's this organization, I think they're based out of Seattle, that have this Madaraka Day get together. And for the last year or the year before, they had an event in Atlanta. And who was supposed to show up at the event? Sauti Sol. And I bought my tickets. I bought VIP passes. I had my date all lined up. I mean, I was like, I was ready to go. So we get there, first the venue was it's a beautiful venue, but we got there and it was cold. It was just cold. It was very cold. Somehow the AC was set on 65. It was just freezing. But long story short, the incompetence with which that event was handled, and I actually wrote something on Facebook about it. The incompetence with which that event was handled was emblematic of Kenya at 62 or 63, or however old it was at the time the event was scheduled. I was going to celebrate Madaraka Day with fellow Kenyans in the diaspora, specifically in Atlanta, and the event was marketed well ahead of time. So kudos to the marketing team. The buzz was definitely there. I mean, I am the fact that I actually got a heads up on it just shows how well it marketed it was, because I'm kind of not plugged into the Kenyan community as much as in Atlanta as I am in California. But anyway, it was a disappointment, and it was emblematic of Kenya just developing in fits and starts. Like my fellow panelists said, there are some things we have accomplished and we can be proud of, but the consistency with which we have moved forward leaves a lot to be desired. And that Madaraka Day celebration was a symptom of the larger narrative about Kenya's trajectory since independence. I hope that makes sense.
Do you have comments? Oh yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah. Thank you for that. Probably.
Well, I'll be drab in comparison to what Washington has said, but at the same time, you see, according to me, Madaraka Day, we are celebrating the opportunity or even the capacity of us as a nation to govern ourselves. And can you hear me?
Sorry, one moment. All right, try that again. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. So, like I was saying, Madaraka Day, we are basically celebrating the opportunity, or rather the capacity of us to govern ourselves. And with whatever is happening in our nation as we speak, and all through, just like Washington said about the inconsistency, it beats the point of us governing ourselves, because it has proven to be a difficult task. As much as we have things to celebrate, we are still way behind in governing ourselves, because whatever we're witnessing right now is quite shocking. So Madaraka Day, to me, I feel like we really need to do more in order to celebrate more.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right. Those are very good answers. I was going to tangent, but I'll just take a brief moment to now clarify. There's a few things that I mentioned before, and I'll just try to reintroduce just Madaraka Day and what it is, what it stands for. So for those in the diaspora who don't fully know, Madaraka Day marks the day Kenya attained internal self-rule from the British colonial rule. That was in June 1st, 1963. And the word Madaraka is Swahili for authority, power, or self-governance. And it's going to be 63 years actually tomorrow that we have gained independence from the British colony, right? Jamhuri, on the other hand, is December 12th, which marks the day being a fully independent republic. That was a year after we gained independence. That was December 12th, 1964. And Jamhuri basically means republic. That said, we've definitely hinted towards the part of governance. And when we talk about governance, we've had a couple of presidents over the years, right? And currently we are seeing what the current presidency is happening. What looking back, I don't want to say which presidency did you guys favor the most, which president do you think truly worked for what we fought for as a country to be independent, to govern us? Like, which, looking back, which president truly pushed for the advancement of Kenya? Or like, looking at the different eras that we've had, which presidency period do you think has impacted Kenya the most positively, and which one do you think has taken us a few steps back, and if so, how? And also, what are some qualities as well of those leaders that stood out that we should look at for one that we would admire for an actual great president to take us forward? Also, you guys are muted, so if you're not speaking, just unmute.
Okay, I think I can go first. Well, it's a very it's quite subjective again, because people have different views on these leaders all through, and I've been able to do a couple of stories on the journey of Kenya since 1963 on all our presidents. And what stood out for me, or rather the leader that stood out for me, was Mwai Kibaki. And of course, the 202 moment, and him driving the economic change in this country. I would consider him as a leader who's been impactful and led our country to some upward trajectory. And it is something worth, applauding. But if you look at Jomo, if you look at Moi, you look at Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto, they are, or rather after Moi Kibaki, the presidents that's been Uhuru and Ruto, they've been able to, try to improve the successes that were brought about by Mwai Kibaki. So for me, Mwai Kibaki was the game changer.
It's perfect. Awesome.
Okay, thank you. That's a tough one, and I'll tell you why. I lived through I'm dating myself, so I lived through Jomo and Moi's presidencies. I always told the story of some of my best friends, were closely related to those two presidencies. And I genuinely thought that when Moi came into power, when he opened up the political process to the previously marginalized communities, I will be very specific. When Moi, released Jaramogi Oginga Odinga from detention and opened up the political process, I thought that was going to be a watershed moment for the country to get away from the blueprint that Jomo Kenyatta created of an ethnic-based presidency. I really thought that we were going to see that transition from Jomo's presidency to a much more open, much more leadership-based, ideas-based presidency. And then, unfortunately, that did not pan out to be. So on the one hand, I blame Jomo for creating the culture that has seen a through line from the 1963 to 2026. I blame Jomo for that, hands down, and I will go to my grave holding that belief. I thought Moi had the opportunity to change that calculus. Somehow it did not. Fast forward, 20 or so years, I thought William Ruto was going to be the person to dismantle that dynasty construction that basically created the mess that Kenya is in. Full disclosure, I think everybody knows that I supported William Ruto, his wheelbarrow versus dynasty campaign. Turns out that he was basically a monkey from the same forest, self-dealing, all these things that we we say we don't want. So I really don't know which of the leaders embody the values that we talk about. Maybe in choosing one, we would have to lower the bar. I hear Kibaki did a great job for the economy, but the same Kibaki who took over from Moi was responsible for, a presidential transition that got Kenya to the brink of civil war in 2007, 2008, because he basically replicated what Kenyatta started with his Mount Kenya Mafia. So, maybe in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Maybe we need, the bar is so low that we have to reach for somebody. But given what I have seen over the years, and I like my colleague, I am a student of Kenyan history. I've written extensively about Kenyan history. My last book was took a look at Kenyan history using Bob Collimore's death as the vehicle for that assessment. I don't think there's anybody who I can point to as being singularly head and shoulder above the other, given our potential and given where we're at. I know that's a mouthful, but again, I don't think it's. I want to give a simple answer to what I think is a pretty profound question.
That's fair. I think that's a very great response from both of you, actually. And that leads me to the next question, because you guys definitely mentioned different aspects of leadership and different aspects of choosing leaders. So do you think Kenya is at a point in time whereby we can move away from the ethnic mindset of like, oh, this is our time to eat, this is our whatever. There's always the talk of this is our time to eat, which I don't think it's something that should advance Kenya, but that's a personal, opinion. Do you think we're ready for a meritocracy-based governance, or do you focus so much on personalities and not enough on policies? I think that may probably be. And what would happen for us to be able to move away from the ethnic mindset or personality mindset to be able to think as a whole as Kenya, like, hey, this is, regardless of what this is going to affect all of us. What do you think behind that? What do you think behind that when it comes to decision making on governance?
Okay, I'll go for it. Okay, perfect. Again, being a student of history, all I can think of was, I think it was 2016, 2018 survey that was conducted by Aga Khan High School, I think, or Aga Khan University, one of the two. But anyway, it's online, and it basically asked the Kenyan youth, what their prognosis of the future looks like. And a tipping point of the youth in 2016 or 2018 basically said they were okay with using an office to enrich oneself if they did not get caught. So framing my response around that, I think unless a tipping point of Kenyans really believe the values and the ideals that they talk about, I don't think we are going to be a merit-based, ethically led society, because we tend to reward unethical behavior. We tend to reward our tribesmen and tribeswomen. We tend to reward people who throw away. You have videos of leaders giving money to Kenyans as part of a campaign gathering, and Kenyans rightfully, not rightfully, but willfully and gladly take the money. You see Kenyans, taking taking property, taking petrol, taking alcohol from accident scenes. I mean, that is a culture that we have, and that culture is reflected all the way to the top. Where so long as you can get away with, unethical behavior, mbele iko sawa. So to answer your question, I don't think we're ready. I don't think we're. I can say that we're not going to see the kind of leadership that we talk about wanting in my lifetime. I am very confident of that in saying that, because the pipeline of people primed to take over are cut from that very fabric of winner take all. I'm gonna get mine. I'm gonna get my tribesmen and women their own, and everyone else be damned. So it's a bleak prognosis, but it's also predicated. It's a prognosis that's based on history. If you study the through line from Jomo to now, there's a very seedy and very uncomfortable mindset within the national leadership, within the national culture, that does not bode well. That's my 20 cents.
Robin, you there?
I think it's mute.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Now I can hear you. Yes.
Great. There's some study I was looking at the other day. They say that Kenyans are inherently disobedient. And just to pick on something Marlo said, you look at videos of Kenyans looting. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I muted.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen these videos of Kenyans looting from food trucks that have fell on the road and siphoning oil and the likes. And if we as Kenyans are partaking in that, then we ask ourselves, if we are the generation that is supposed to take after our forefathers and the likes, are we really heading somewhere as a country? So I do second what Marlo said. We are still quite far from having meritocracy and all, but at the same time we are slowly moving away from ethnic politics, because if you look at the moment, we have leaders who have been embraced by people across the divide. I mean, we have the CJ here who seemingly is absorbed by everybody. There's not so much. I mean, if you ask people why they would not want to support CJ, it is not going to be based on ethnic divide. They'll simply tell you, I just don't like this and this and this about him. So we are slowly moving away from the type of ethnic voting and the likes. So we still have a long way to go.
Great. Okay, cool. I definitely appreciate that perspective. There's a lot to talk about when you're looking back at Kenya's progress so far, and there are definitely different topics that we'll do. Today will just be part one of of one of two or one of others that we do reflect on all this. I know governance we talked about plenty. I won't have us dive into the economic part of it for today, but I want us to just finish off with just a few highlights of, I think, what are certain great things that, if was structured properly, and I'll just start by mentioning a few of them, and you guys can definitely point out what I may be missing. But what are certain moments in Kenya's history whereby we think we truly achieved what it means to be Kenya, or show the world that we are Kenya, this is who we are, whether it's through sports, whether it's through development, whether it's through certain achievements. What are certain highlights that don't get enough coverage that should definitely be worth considering or worth mentioning over the last 63 years, and things that I think, if we give more power to, we'll be able to develop Kenya to what it needs to be? Because I know you guys have definitely mentioned about the inherent disobedient behavior of people looting, but I think that's mostly from a survival standpoint more than a moral standpoint, right? But when it comes to more of like the desire to succeed, the desire to progress, the desire to get there. What do you guys think are those big highlights that we need to mention? And of course, I'll mention some in the end in case we miss any. But while Pravin jumps back on, this will be like our last topical thing, and then I'll have us do a part 2 tomorrow if we do have time tomorrow. But for now, we can end towards this part of conversation. Go ahead. So go ahead again. You're muted. Yeah.
Okay. I think I would go with our accomplishments on the sports stage, and I have a reason for that. The ethics and hard work of our athletes is unquestionable. Put Kenyan runners against anyone in the world, and they will make their presence known and felt. And in most instances, they will come out on top. They are our greatest ambassadors that I can think of, our athletes. Hard work, ethical. I know we've had some problems with doping, but as a general proposition, they are our best ambassadors because the proof is in the pudding. So I think if we can harness those ethics that they exemplify to get them to the world, to get them atop the world, then I think we should be okay. And I compare our athletes to the African American sports figures, cultural icons, who forced the country to take a hard look at its racial relationships. I mean, African Americans dominate the sports field because that's where you cannot, that's where your tribe or your name doesn't mean anything. It's your hard work. It's your effort. The proof is in the pudding. I'm going to go up against Nazis in the 1936 Olympics, and I'm going to come out on top because I worked hard. That's Jesse Owens, National Basketball Association. For the longest time, African Americans were not allowed to play until they just proved that they were infinitely better. Same with American football, infinitely better. The proof is in the pudding. I think our athletes embody that. They are world-class, world-beating athletes. They work hard. They've created a culture where they support one another. What is it? City of Champions. That is a mecca that the world goes to see how Kenyans run. So that is a culture. That is something that we should build on, because it is organic, it is our own, and the proof is in the pudding. And other countries see that. That's why you find Kamba running for Turkey. You find someone from Eldoret running for in Bahrain or one of the United Arab Emirates, because the proof is in the pudding. The proof is the pudding because they work hard, they're world class, their ethics are above reproach. What is there not to love about that? So if there's one thing that I always remind people of, yes, I'm from Kenya, but I'm not a runner because I did not pick up the same ethics that these world-class runners did. But I'm proud of that. So that would be my response to that.
Perfect. I know Pravin's network definitely cut off. And just to recap for Pravin, we're talking about what is certain accomplishments or certain things that truly show the world who we are as Kenyans, and what are some things we need to be proud of as a country over the years. So I know you definitely mentioned the athletes, which is absolutely phenomenal, and I'll definitely hint at it after you guys. But Pravin, do you have a thought about that?
Could you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I think what majorly we celebrate as Kenyans is especially on the athletes, and I think that is something that stands out to the rest of the world. If you tell someone you're from Kenya, they'll probably ask you, "Are you running? Do you know Eliud Kipchoge and the likes?" That is something that we celebrate, you know. And
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
quite as much as it's a beauty, it's also sad because that is what we are known for. I feel like we need to, explore on other talents and put them out there in the world. So, marathon and running, I think that is what we can be able to celebrate.
Okay, cool. That's a great response. I'll just finish up with saying, like, from my perspective, because I think, even though I'm moderating, I think there's certain things that is worth mentioning for sure, and some things that do get forgotten. One is definitely the unity of Kenya. Like, this band in America is now known as, the Kenyan passports, and people would definitely ask, do you get given that at birth? But it's something that definitely unites us. It's easy to create community out in the diaspora, but it has helped give us a positive identity. Because back in the early 2000s or before, when if you live in the diaspora, being an African was always negative and because Buddhist scratch and whatnot. That was something that was not to be too much proud of. But just like you guys mentioned, the athletics is something that has really put us on the map. From Kenya Sevens, who dominated, won in Singapore and got in the finals recently as well. The women's rugby as well, not just the men, but women's rugby is definitely coming up as well. It's disappointing that the 15s, Kenya 15s isn't getting a good job, but that's the drawback when it comes to sports. The management can be very questionable, but it's one of those things that when it comes to within the sports arena, we were one of the best when it came to cricket. That even India and Pakistan used to respect us. We're great in like badminton and whatnot. There's no sport that we have done that we've never not been great at, right? We've had running, we've had even right now in the 100-meter race, we have Omanyala, who's definitely showing why Kenyans aren't just long distance runners, and that is something that is worth mentioning. And outside of even just the sports, we have had great accomplishments like having a Nobel laureate, the first female, I think in the whole of Africa, if I'm not wrong, get nominated and get the award, Wangari Maathai. That was something definitely great, something that we should push for culturally. What else? The building of the Nyayo car. That's something that gets forgotten and gets lost in translation and history. But that's being able to build something homemade is something worth mentioning because it shows that we do have talent. And as we've seen over the years, Kenyans are very innovative. From being able to come up with M-Pesa, something that even Americans can't think about, to having something like before smartphones were a thing, someone would basically dial if they know there's rain coming home, they dial on their phone and the machine does the power line or the washing line to go back in the house, which I think it was highlighted back in, I think, before 2010 2012 on NTV. And that's very advanced technology that I think it's worth mentioning to show that we do have the capacity to be great. We just need the systems and the structures to get there. I could mention other couple of things, but I think for the most part, that's definitely I'd say the foundational parts of we're good in STEM and the educational part. Kenya is known for also helping people with the educational part, and we've done a great job, but we are not uneducated. Even us having to do the TOEFL or ITLs doesn't make sense. But in the grand scheme of it all, Kenya has a lot to be proud of, and we're just beginning, right? I think right now it's just a matter of having the right systems to be able to propel us forward. I know we are shortly running out of time just because today I want us to keep it, just around an hour. But then we'll do a part two if you guys are definitely available tomorrow. I would love for us to go into the other aspects of the country till now, which is the economic side of things, because I know that's something we haven't talked about. But do you guys have any last remarks for today before we drop?
Pravin? You're on mute. You're on mute.
And we are Kenyans, we are proud of who we are, and we are on the map. And just like you've mentioned, we have a lot of things to celebrate as Kenyans. And the only way we can be able to celebrate these things is if at all we have right structures in our own country. Because, us celebrating our marathoners, yet, we have people who are hungry, we have guys in the hospital lacking medicines and the likes. It beats the logic. So the moment we put our structures right, yeah, we have a long way to go, and we need the right people for the right change in this country. So that was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go in a different direction because both of you mentioned structures and systems. And those are abstracts. Structures and systems are all abstracts. Like I said, I work in the medical device industry, and the systems that govern what we do is ISO, international standards. But at the core of all these systems and standards are individuals. They're people who are charged with executing those the procedures that are embodied in the systems. Without the right people, without the ethical people to execute these various systems, then we just have the best system in the world that flounders. Kenya has one of the world's best constitution, yet we are one of the most corrupt countries in the region, a region that has South Sudan and Somalia. Tells you how much that world-class constitution means if the people charged with executing on it are not ethical. So I think we just need the right leadership, and that is determined in a democratic society by the voters. I urge everyone who talks about the Kenya we want to step up and be counted. And if there's anybody who embodies what we talk about, what we've been talking about since independence, it's the CJ. His ethics are beyond reproach compared to anyone in the field right now.
Perfect. Okay, cool. That's amazing. Thank you guys for those PowerPoints that you guys have made towards the end. I definitely agree. There's definitely bringing change to Kenya is something that's so multifaceted. It requires a multi approach, and I think that it is necessary for us to acknowledge that, and for us to be able to drive change, we all need to at least have that critical thinking of what Kenya needs and what we need to change to get to where we need to be. So this is just a first of many. If you are watching this live or watching this clip off of our social media platforms, we do have a new page called the Kenyan Diaspora Discourse, and that's going to be one of the platforms that we use. It's open to anyone who would like to discuss certain things. I know I would have loved for us to talk about the current affairs as well, which I know we didn't get a chance to talk about, but the thought about Kenya having the Ebola patients being hosted in Kenya from America, like that's something that I know you're in the medical device industry, but that's things that it would be nice to look through, and especially with, first of all, I'd like to send prayers to those parents who lost the kids in Gilgil. That's really sad, and we don't really wish that on anyone. But more than that, there are so many things that keep changing. I know there was the Africa Forward Summit that we had recently. It would be nice to definitely discuss that and see what our thoughts behind the leadership and our alignments with our allies. But that's something that, again, we have time. Over time, we will definitely bring some of these conversations. And I thank you guys for tuning into the conversation. Pravin, watching that, I appreciate you guys for hopping on. And if you know anyone who'd love to hop on and discuss and share opinions, because the first revolution is never in the streets, it's always in the mind. Once we change that, the rest comes, So when they say the revolution will not be televised, it's all mental. Like once we talk to people and we at least get them thinking, regardless of what they think, at least we know that there's some critical thinking that took place, So all we can do is have shared opinions and, basically try to figure out how we can move Kenya forward in whatever capacity we can. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching, and watching Pravin. If you guys are free tomorrow, definitely touch base. If not, we'll touch base sometime this week or next weekend.
Great. Yeah, thanks for hosting, Jake. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Pravin, I know, are you there?
Pravin, you there?
I know he's
he's buffering. I see he's buffering symbol. It's been on for the last 10 seconds. I think there's definitely a network issue.
Yeah, maybe if he turns off, probably if he hears, you can turn off your camera and just do audio.
Yeah, correct. You there, Pravin?
Pravin, are you there?
Okay.
But, yeah, thank you guys. All right, take it easy, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right, man.
All right, take care.
Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Tushangilie Kenya, taifa letu tukufu, Kenya tunayoipenda, Kenya nchi tunayoipenda.
Twajivunia sana tukijiita wa Kenya, nchi yenye baraka. Kenya nchi yenye baraka.
Tumekomboa Kenya, taifa letu tukufu, tumebadili mwendo, tutalinda katiba mpya. Anayependa Kenya ni yule mwenye kutenda haki kwa watu wote, mtu mwenye kutenda haki. Na ukipenda Kenya ujitengane na mambo yenye kuvunja amani. Hatutaki matata Kenya, wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
Kenya kipenzi chetu, nchi yenye upendo, hatutaacha Kenya daima na milele.
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
Wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
na nikienda nje sitasahau Kenya, na nitabaki Mkenya daima na milele.
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
Wenye nchi
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
na tumeapa sote wenye nchi ya Kenya kutumikia Kenya daima na milele.
Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima.
Wenye nchi